Hello there, ladies and gentlemen of YouTube, and welcome back to Team Fortress 2. Today I'm going to be showing off a couple of Demoman gameplays, primarily using the Loch-n-Load, and I will also be doing some silly charges, giving some people some rather firm handshakes on the occasion, because I am a rather nice Demoman. The Loch-n-Load. I've wanted to talk about this weapon for about 2 weeks now. I haven't exactly found much motivation to use it in the first place, due to the fact that the Loch-n-Load is quite a shell of its former two selves, you might say. I say former two selves because, well, let's get into a little bit of history about the Loch-n-Load first. This weapon used to have only 2 shots. It was a grenade launcher that was essentially a really crappy direct hit for the Demoman. And you could pretty much instantly kill weaker classes with it once. The grenades travel faster, they deal more damage to more players and buildings. It was a pretty good weapon, and the real downside being that even though the projectiles did travel much faster, the result of them hitting any surface would just cause the bombs to shatter. The old Loch-n-Load was quite a powerful weapon, and then at some point Valve decided to make it more powerful when they gave it a 3rd shot, which still makes no sense to me. I'm still standing by this fact that they really should have changed the model if they wanted to reflect the fact that the Loch-n-Load had 3 shots. So maybe give it a 3rd chamber or something, even though the Demoman loads all the bombs in a single chambers. This still bugs me. Valve, are you ever gonna fix that? But they gave it 3 shots, and then they decided that, instantly killing weaker classes, that's not great. So let's just make sure the bombs deal a consistent 120 damage per shot. And then let's get to the gunmetal update. After some time passes, last summer, they decided to make sure the damage bonus would only inflict additional damage on buildings. So this is basically not really the greatest grenade launcher that I've ever played with. It's still a good weapon, no doubt about that, but after doing some serious contemplating about the Loch-n-Load, I think it would be more advised to change this weapon back to its original state, the way it was before. 2 shots, precision-based skill weapon. So, to back up my case, allow me to start off by saying that I'd personally ensure that the Loch-n-Load would not instantly kill weaker classes in a single shot. When this weapon was initially changed to avoid that instant kill problem, Valve decided that it would be best to maybe compensate for that by giving the weapon a 3rd shot. I've mulled over this for a while, and I actually found the changes in damage to be quite reasonable. What I disagreed with, on the other hand, was giving it a 3rd shot. Who asked for this? Like, who was requesting that a 3rd shot be given to the Loch-n-Load? I don't understand that change at all. The Loch-n-Load is all about precision. You shoot the bombs in the direction of where you think that person is gonna be, so you can't exactly spam the shots and hope that rolling grenades will cause additional havoc. That's not the way this weapon was designed. There's probably a large number of people, including myself here, just to be fair, that have compared this weapon to the soldier's direct hit. And statistically, both weapons can be superior in a lot of situations, but they both have their drawbacks. The main problem with the direct hit is that it lacks very much splash damage, which is something that the soldier really relies upon on killing people who are retreating or trying to hide in corners or places like that. The difference here is that the Loch-n-Load does retain its splash damage, but this is still a grenade launcher. Regardless of the fact that the projectiles do travel faster, it's not really encouraged to stand at like the far end of the map and maybe shoot at a sentry for about 2 minutes, because you're spending a lot of time trying to find that perfect angle to shoot at and for the grenades to connect with the sentry in the first place. And you can apply similar logic when it comes to fighting players. The Demoman has always been a medium-range fighting class. You're not going to be standing at the other side of the map hoping to kill someone with a Loch-n-Load shot. Maybe you'll get lucky, but that's only if you'll get lucky. Players are a bit of a trickier case rather than sentries, which are completely immobile. The Loch-n-Load was always encouraging people to get into the fight. You get up close, you take a few risks, you'd only have 2 shots, but you'll be rewarded for landing those 2 shots. So just because people were good with this weapon was the main reason why it was changed in the first place, and I disapprove of this. In fact, given the current Demoknight situation, the way things are, I'd say that it's more justified to actually change the Loch-n-Load back to its original state. And for anyone who might be disagreeing with me on the idea of changing this weapon back to its former state, I'm going to defend my point by saying that demo men, including myself, have a tendency to rely on grenades rolling around in order to kill other players. Sometimes. If you're trying to spam out a nest around a corner or up on a ledge, it can be a little bit tricky with the Loch-n-Load because you kind of have to find that perfect angle to hit players with, and it's going to be a little bit of blind guessing sometimes, but courtesy of having a regular grenade launcher, which if you can land all 4 shots, deals 400 damage. With the Loch-n-Load, if you had 2 shots that dealt 120 damage, that'd only be 240. I'd say that it's pretty fair to say that this grenade launcher would be pretty evenly balanced. I suppose if you wanted to take it a step further by, say, increasing the reload time or the firing speed interval times, then that would be pretty reasonable and justifiable, in my book. If you want to find that perfect point in balancing the Loch-n-Load, then I actually kind of encourage that, because then it would change a couple things about the Loch-n-Load in its playstyle, but at least it would still deal more damage to players, anyway. That's how I feel about the Loch-n-Load, and let me know what you think about this. I'd like to hear your opinions. And while we're on the subject of Demo Man, any longtime follower of my channel is probably perfectly aware of the fact that Half Demoknight has and always will be my favorite playstyle of Demo Man. At least that was the case until the Tough Break update came along and Valve decided that it hated fun. So, the Charge is no longer the best shield in the game. That slot has now been reserved for the Splendid screen in my opinion. But thus far I've been finding that Half Demoknight has become less and less viable, and it's more like I'm playing a third of a Demoknight now, where, I have a shield, I can bash into people as many times as I please. But I do not have a sword. I cannot carry around my favorite Eyelander or golf club or anything like that, because it's less convenient now. It takes an eternity to switch weapons. You can't exactly just pull out a sword and deter people from chasing you around like a maniac. That's just not the way Demoknight playstyle is now. You kinda have to make important decisions of when you want to use a grenade launcher and when you want to use a melee weapon. It's all a bit of a mess. I personally can't appreciate it for what it's worth, so I've just given up the whole sword gimmick entirely and switched over to a whiskey bottle, which can be effective because it's a weapon that randomly crits, and random crits are of course fair and balanced, as everyone states, so it must be true. This has become the new meta for me now. It's like the head honchos at Valve completely forgot about the fact that Demoknights could be easily countered by anyone who happens to use bullets, and that's almost every class in the game. A good scout could shut down a Half Demoknight very easily. A pyro has a shotgun. If the flames weren't effective against the guy with a shield, then maybe you could switch over to a shotgun, which can kill a Demoknight in a couple of shots if you have a good aim. All it takes is a little bit of practice and game knowledge. It wouldn't take too much effort to kill a Demoknight, and because it was such a popular playstyle, well, I guess that's it. That's that. No more fun for the Demoknight. Now the only way you can play an effective Demoknight, in my personal opinion, is to just run around with the wee booties, put a shield on, grab a sword, just go have some fun. Because I've done this with the Splendid screen, I've run around with the Eyelander and the new Persian Persuader, and both are very fun in their own rights, but the effectiveness of the Half Demoknight has been significantly neutered, and I just don't find it's worth the trouble anymore. Please have faith in me when I say I made the attempt to get plenty of gameplays of using the traditional grenade launcher, Eyelander, and charge video, but none of this was ever working out, and that might have been due to the community response where literally everyone was playing Pyro. The Phlogiston was such a huge deal after the Tough Break update happened. A lot of people called it a buff. I kind of personally saw it as a nerf. But then again, I'm just going to keep putting this topic off for at least another 10 videos, so I'm never going to end up talking about the Phlogiston ever, because I hate it. But I'll say it right now, I don't think the initial changes to the Phlogiston were that bad. You just had to modify your playstyle a bit to accept the fact that Pyros are going to be invincible when they taunt, but that's only until the end of the taunt, and you could still counter them in various ways. One of the more personally preferred playstyles of getting rid of Pyros is to use the Sandman and Guillotine combo, which I absolutely adore. So, that was definitely an option, but hey, the Phlogiston was changed again, so now Pyros don't regain all their health whenever they taunt, which is kind of counterproductive. The original reason Logistinator gave you that buff to begin with was to get you out of hairy situations, and you never had an air blast. It's just such a messy weapon now, and I'm kind of surprised, given all of the negative feedback that the community had in the first place, that Valve didn't respond like 3 days later like they did with the Sticky Bomb nerf back in the Love and War update, but what? Who gives a crap at this point? The Phlogiston is now awful again, and who really cares? Okay, it may have been the negative response from the community which caused the Phlogiston to be nerfed once again, but this is a Demoknight video, so let's try and keep that close in mind. I figure, though, maybe it was because people were complaining about Demoknight being overpowered, or half Demoknight anyway. But I know the truth now. Valve monitors their servers daily. They have video cameras set up on every active game of their TF2 servers. So they know exactly what's going on, who plays which class often, how many of each class are on the same team. It's all there in a huge databank, so the only way people can tell when something needs to be nerfed is because of how many players are using this weapon or this class or that class. So the only way we can get rid of Pyros altogether in the end is to just convince everyone on each server to play Pyro as often as possible, so they'll eventually remove Pyro from the game altogether and Demoknights can thrive once again. I would be really happy if this happened.